Honesty time. When there is something coming up in your future and you have no idea how it's going to turn out, do you ever find yourself assuming that it's going to turn out badly, that it's going to fail, that it's going to be a disaster, that you are going to be a disaster or be rejected or hurt or humiliated in some way? Does this ever happen to you? And I'm talking about those times when you really don't know how it's going to go and you automatically go down that rabbit hole of awful. If it's a job interview, that you're going for and you've got the interview set and you're like, well, I'm probably going to bomb it. It's probably going to be a disaster. Or if it's about, trying to find a new career, something that you enjoy more, and you're like, I'm probably never going to find anything that I love. I'm never going to find out what my passion or my purpose is. Or if it's about starting a new relationship and you're like, well, this person's going to probably find out who I really am and then they're going to reject me because they're going to see that I'm not perfect and it's all going to go down the tubes. Or if it's about throwing a dinner party and you're like, well, probably no one's going to have a good time or something's going to go wrong. It's going to be a disaster. Or you're going to a social event and you're like, I'm probably going to look like an idiot or say something that I regret or be awkward or whatever that is. Do you ever do that? And if you do, that is a cognitive distortion called fortune telling. It is a distorted way of thinking without you even realizing it's distorted. You might think it's perfectly reasonable to think that this thing is going to turn out terribly, but I'm going to tell you that it's not perfectly reasonable. It's actually kind of unreasonable. And today we're going to talk about why that is and what to do about it so that you can stop making yourself feel terrible by assuming that things are always going to turn out terribly, especially when you don't know for sure, or there's even not any significant signs pointing to the fact that it will. I hope you get a lot out of this talk today. If you're new here, welcome to our incredible little corner on the internet. Take a second, introduce yourself in the comment section below. If you are back again, it is always good to have you. Shout out to my shifters, always good to have you here. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. The button's about right down there. And either way, my name is Kristina. I'm a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, and the creator of my membership community, the Shift Society, where we are taking this work that you are learning here to the next level, where you are learning step-by-step tools, techniques, and strategies to learn how to manage your mind and emotions so that you can feel in charge of yourself no matter whoever or whatever is happening in or around you. We do it with support and with accountability and with my guidance, and I'm really hands-on in there as well. It's my favorite place to hang out on the internet. You can get more information about the Shift Society in the description below. I help heart-centered humans break through the crap that is holding them back so that they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And this talk about fortune telling, this is something that I posted on my Instagram stories, which also went to my Facebook stories, where I talked about this. So the reason why I'm giving this talk in more elaborate detail is because it was one of my most watched and responded to, interacted with Instagram or Facebook stories. It cross posts on both. And so many people messaged and said, can you elaborate on this? I'd just done a quick little, 2-minute talk on fortune telling. And people are like, oh my gosh, this resonated with me so much, but I want to learn more. Can you do this? So I'm responding to that request and giving this talk on fortune telling. So let's look at this. Let's look at what's going on in our brains when we are fortune telling. And like I talked about, fortune telling is really when we just make an assumption about how something is going to go. Usually it's something bad or awful happening when we don't know for sure. Oops, sorry. But the interesting part of it is that it doesn't even often occur to us that if we don't know how something is going to go, yeah, it could go terribly, but it doesn't even really occur to us that it could go well or could be absolutely fine. It's as if that option is not even there. So we have to question this with our brains and be like, okay, brain, if both options are possible, it could fail or it could go fine. Why is it that I am so stuck on the failure when there's, maybe even a fairly equal chance, especially if I have no idea how it's going to go, there's a fairly equal chance that it could go either way. Why am I so stuck on the terrible part? Why don't I unstick that a little bit and stick a little bit at least to the part where it could be okay, where it maybe even could be, heaven forbid it, a smashing success? Why not let my brain go there. And I think, in all honesty, sometimes we kind of fear letting ourselves anticipate or hope for something because we're scared that if I let myself want it, if I don't get it, I'm going to be disappointed. And we think that we can protect ourselves from that disappointment if we assume that it's going to go badly. But I'm going to tell you, when you don't get what you want and when things don't go the way that you want, it's going to hurt no matter what. So may as well, in the process, cling to or kind of entertain a positive outcome, a desirable outcome, because at least in the meantime, then you get to not feel terrible and you might even get to feel good. Here's the other thing. On sort of this subconscious level, when we assume something is going to turn out terribly, not always, but often we end up subconsciously sabotaging. So if we're like, you know what, that job interview is going to go terrible. I have no chance of getting that job, even if, that's not actually true. You actually do have a good chance, but you're just sabotaging yourself or doubting yourself. Then you're like, you know what, I'm not even going to bother preparing because it's probably going to go terribly anyway. So then you don't prepare. And then you walk into the interview, you don't have anything prepared. You're not really set up to do well. And then you don't. And then you're like, see, I didn't do well. But it's like, did you not do well because you put in all your effort, because you planned and prepared and actually took it seriously, or because you kind of just blew it off because you assumed that you wouldn't do well, even if you didn't actually know for sure? Do you approach relationships in the way of, well, this person's going to probably reject me or abandon me anyways, so I'm not going to let myself get close to them. I'm going to withhold. I'm going to, not share anything real. I'm not going to let myself really connect with them. And then over time, when a relationship kind of develops into that stage where we should be more authentic, more vulnerability, more honesty, but you're not giving that, you're not giving any people anything to attach to, so they don't feel attached to you, so they kind of move away from you or just kind of get a little bit annoyed or bored with the fact that you're not being your true self and they don't feel very connected to you, so they, maybe move on. And then you say, see, everyone abandons me. And so when we assume things are going to go terribly, often we subconsciously or maybe even semi-consciously act in ways that end up creating that outcome. Now, the other part of it, in all honesty, is that some of us are motivated by the fear of failure. So we're like, this is going to go terribly. I better plan and prepare and do everything that I can to try and make it go successfully. But then that whole process is based on stress and anxiety and fear. And maybe we do take the required actions to get the outcome, better chance of getting the outcome we want, but we feel stressed and anxious the whole time. So what if we also considered the possibility that it could go well? That things could turn out the way that we want, that it could be a success. And then we're like, okay, I'm going into this job interview and I think I have some pretty good skills. I might not tick all the boxes on the requirements, but I think that, I'm quick and I learn well and I'm be a great asset to the team. And I've proven that I know what I'm doing and that I can, rise to the challenge. So I am going to go in there and I'm going to give my all. And I'm going to ask some people who are in that position for some ideas of what maybe some interview questions might be. And I'm going to prepare and I'm going to do a little bit of background learning. And I'm going to go in there because I'm like, I think it's going to go well. And I think I have a good shot. And so yay, this is fun. Let me go see what I can do. And so then in the process, it ends up being interesting and informative and we're excited and motivated. And then we go in and we still don't know for sure if we're going to get it, but at least the whole journey up into that point didn't leave you feeling stressed, anxious, defeated, or terrible. So do you see how that works? When we don't know exactly how something is going to go, why not entertain the idea that it could go well? Why not consider the option of things going the way that you want to? And I'm not saying that, again, just assuming something is going to go well or hoping that something is going to go well means that it automatically is. I'm not talking about that because that's, you can't, that's not the way. It's not like things are going to go perfectly. And then every time I think that they have to, or, everything is awful. No, that's not it. But you just have a better shot. And at least in the process, you end up feeling better. And again, I'm not saying that everything is always going to turn out the way that we want it to. And maybe not in the exact way that we want it to. Maybe not in the timeline that we want it to. But when we go through life with an attitude that we can figure things out, that we can get back up when we fall or we fail, then we are much more willing to get back up and keep trying. When we make our failures or rejections or disappointments mean there's something about me that I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes, I'm not worthy enough, then we just give up instead of being like, okay, that sucked, that was disappointing. What do I want to learn from that? What do I want to take from that? If that relationship failed, what do I want to learn from that? Well, also not beating myself up and being like, oh, I'm terrible and it was all my fault. Being like, okay, what did maybe I contribute to that relationship that wasn't working well? Were my expectations too high? Was I sort of assuming that this person should meet all of my needs? Was I sabotaging because I didn't feel good enough? And so I was kind of always like doubting them or seeking all of this validation from them constantly. And that started to get annoying where, they were like, I like you. Can you not just accept that? Why do you keep having to, push and get all like needy and like, that's annoying. I said that I liked you and I wanted to be with you. Can you please just trust that? Right? So then we are much more likely to have that success by assuming that things are going to go well when we can learn from and look at, okay, what might I have been doing that contributed, not overly blaming myself, but that contributed to this not going well. And I can learn from that and I can work on that. Same thing if you are going for a promotion and you didn't get the promotion. You're not going to be like, well, I suck and I'm not good enough and I can't do this. If you're like, okay, I have some good things going for me and I am absolutely competent and capable and able to learn, but there's some areas here that are underdeveloped. Some things that I need to work on, that I need to look at, that I need to invest some time and energy into so that I can get better, so I can be more qualified for this and have a better chance of getting the outcome that I want. So fortune telling, when we just assume that things are going to turn out badly without actually even knowing for sure, or when, it's kind of a 50-50 chance, why not assume that the possibility of things going well is also a possibility? That is also something that could happen. While also knowing that if it doesn't go the way that I want, it's not the end of the world. I can learn from it. I can take a step back. What if it doesn't turn out? What if it doesn't go according to plan? What if it doesn't work out? What if I don't get what I want? Okay, what if I don't? What will I do? How will I learn from that? How will I grow from that? What will I take from that? What will I do differently next time? I love that saying that says there's no such thing as failure. You either win or you learn. So what if I went through life like that? That I could look to the future, could look to potential outcomes, consider all of them, and then decide which ones I want to focus on and what I want to do to help influence that particular outcome. What actions do I want to take? What choices do I want to make? What shifts do I want to engage in so that I can increase the chances that I'm going to get the outcome that I want instead of getting stuck in that self-sabotage, self-doubt, in that fear, and then likely not getting the outcome that I want or feeling terrible the whole way until I get the outcome. Even if I get the outcome I want, I felt terrible the entire way. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you notice yourself fortune telling? Why do you do it? Are you trying to protect yourself? And are you really protect yourself, or are you more so preventing yourself from having better by assuming that you can only have worse? And what if you assumed that you could have better, that you could work towards better, that you could create better? What would you do differently? How would you feel differently? How would you show up differently? How would you live differently? How would you love differently? If this is something that you're struggling with, then I want you to make sure that you get your hands on my new book, Drive Your Own Darn Bus. And it is how to get mentally strong and into the driver's seat of your own life. And this is what's going to teach you how to manage your mind in this way. The step-by-step process to be able to manage your mind and emotions to be going in the direction that you want them to go, no matter whoever or whatever is happening around you or in you. Gives you the step-by-step strategy for that. Covers all kinds of topics like boundaries and people pleasing and building your self-confidence and having better relationships and dealing with shame and teaching you self-compassion, teaching you how to live more fully and freely as yourself. You can get your hands on Drive Your Own Darn Bus, available at all major online retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Pretty much you can just Google it and it'll show up in your area somewhere to buy it online. We're not going to do this fortune telling thing anymore, okay? We're going to work on this. We are going to have hope, and hope spurs positive action. And then we're going to take the actions that we want to help us create the outcomes that we want. And if we don't get the outcomes we want, we're going to learn from it, we're going to regroup, and we're going to figure out, A, if we still want it. And if we do still want it, we're going to do whatever we need to do to keep working towards it. Deal? Always good to have you here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Take good care of yourselves. Take good care of the people around you. And until next time, see you soon.